Hello and welcome to The Insider, a show designed to clue you into the biggest news, events and announcements inside the video games industry, discussing with you some things you may know, some things you may not, and the glue that holds it all together is a little bit of my own opinion. My name is Paul James, thank you very much for watching, and let's get off with our episode. So in our final E3 prediction special for 2018, we're going to abandon the format that's been so good to me so far. We're killing off the sure things, the 50-50 and the no chance things, because we're talking about all the miscellaneous third parties, indies, whatever's still to come. There's a lot to discuss. I've got to have my sticky notes handy, so please bear with me as we go through each and every one of the big AAA third parties and see what it is they might have in store for E3 2018. So let's start by talking about Take-Two, the parent company of 2K, Rockstar, and several others. Now, the first thing that springs to mind when people talk about 2K these days is Red Dead Redemption 2. I think there's this discussion that goes on around Rockstar and whether they are too big to attend E3. And that applies when we're talking about GTA, but I'm not so sure when it comes to Red Dead or any other IP that they have. They don't quite have the same cachet, the same fourth wall breaking sort of impact that GTA does. Everyone in the world knows about GTA, whether they're a gamer or not, but Red Dead doesn't quite hold that, nor do most of their other franchises. So I think there's room to think that Red Dead might be present on the PlayStation stage, or at E3 in some way, shape or form. Other things we need to discuss are, of course, the 2K games. So that includes NBA and WWE. I think it's pretty reasonable to assume that both of those will be there in some way, shape or form. Probably just playable on the show floor, but they can't go without an opportunity to show those things off to the media, to the fans, those who are clamoring to see more of that game. I had some 50-50 games listed here, and those were Borderlands 3, which apparently, according to Randy Pitchford, is not going to be at E3 2018, but something's telling me that's probably not the case. It might rock up a Coliseum beforehand. It might be part of a pre-show, so it's technically not on the stage, not in a conference or whatever. But we're due. The game's been in development for a long time. It was over a year ago that we saw the engine in some sort of state that looked pretty decent, and there was a Walmart leak. There's a whole bunch of other bits and pieces going on. There's reason to think that might be the case, as there is reason to think that BioShock is on the way. Now, 2K are working on one. That is all but certain. Jason Schreier mentioned it in a report a little while ago. But the time is about right. It's been a long time since Infinite. We've seen ports on the PS4, Xbox One to kind of keep that BioShock name in our heads. I think we're about due for one. But then you can rule out Mafia. We're not going to see anything more about Mafia.
Get out here! Stay strong. Stay with me. You have to love yourself a fire.
So we're moving on to Capcom now, and we're going to talk about some of those sure things, some of those maybes, some of those no chance games. And the first thing that we need to discuss is Mega Man 11, which now has a release date. It's coming later this year. People are excited for that, especially those old school Mega Man fans. And I think people at E3 need an opportunity to get their hands on it. We need to get that feedback. We need to give them feedback about how this game's going, because Mega Man is an important IP to so many people. We need this thing done right. I've already spoken about Monster Hunter in our Nintendo episode, but you can be fairly certain the Monster Hunter Generations for the Switch is going to be there, and Monster Hunter World in some sort of capacity. Maybe they're just showing some of the new content, they're giving opportunity for people to explore that new content, but it's going to be there in some way, shape or form. Capcom has two other big IP, Resident Evil and Street Fighter. Now, there's got to be something Street Fighter related, even if it's DLC for Street Fighter V or new inclusions, additions, improvements made to Street Fighter V. Whilst for Resident Evil, well, Resident Evil 7 got announced for the Switch recently, kind of a cloud-based version, so you can kind of download, and that's in Japan, and there's no reason to think why it's not possible out here in the West as well. Certainly the infrastructure is good enough, so let's hope that they deliver that to the Switch, because it's an interesting platform. You're holding it here and getting terrified. Resident Evil 7 was one of those games that really rattled me, and I'd be tempted to try it again with the control, with the screen right up here in my face. I don't know, we'll see. But there's also Resident Evil 2, the remake, which was announced quite some time ago, and we've seen and heard nothing of since. Surely that's going to be announced as well, or re-revealed as well. Next up is Devil May Cry 5, or just a successor to the Devil May Cry franchise. This was rumoured quite some time ago that the game was actually meant to be present in some way, shape or form at PSX last year, and then that fell through at the last minute. The game must be at this point ready for some sort of showcase, so let's make E3 2018 that occasion. Rumours suggest that it's tied somehow to PlayStation, but if not, I think we just need to see it in some way, shape or form. As for those you can rule out, you're not going to see a successor to Resident Evil, you're not going to see a successor to Street Fighter, just those that double down and focus on those games that already exist. There's not too many other things though that Capcom may not do. They've got a lot of IP, there's a lot of potential there, and maybe they'll just dig one out and bring it back just for good measure. Sega has a bit to show us. Persona's doing some cool things with their dancing all night games, and for 3 and 5, and they're doing heaps of Persona stuff these days. Q2, there's a lot of Persona out there these days, so expect to see a bit of that at E3 2018. There's probably going to be a new Sonic game. Certainly there's that Sonic Mania Plus, the game that's kind of developed by fans, embraced by Sega, and basically it's the best Sonic game that anyone's seen in probably 10 years. Maybe we'll see more from them, from that franchise at E3. We're certainly going to see the new Sonic and Sonic Racing game. That was finally announced only about a week ago. There's some cool things going on there. He's hoping that we get something more from that. I think it's meant to come out this year, but it's certainly coming to all the platforms. So look out for that. Next up is Valkyria Chronicles 4. It's coming. There's reason to be excited. We haven't seen a proper Valkyria Chronicles game in quite some time. That Azure Revolution a few years ago didn't quite cut the mustard in the same way that the franchise did prior. I'm excited. There is a small but ravenous fan base that is also excited, and it's one to keep an eye out for. Finally, there's Shenmue. Shenmue 1 and 2 have been announced. There's kind of a compilation that is coming to the current generation consoles, and that is to support the fact that Shenmue 3 is also in development. It's not coming out this year, but maybe we'll see something from that at the PlayStation stage or on the show floor at E3 2018. Next to be discussed is Warner Brothers. And they're really interesting because they are responsible for Rocksteady. Now, Rocksteady, if you're not familiar with the name, are the ones responsible for the Batman Arkham franchise. And they were amazing games. They've said that they're not going to be working on another Batman game, but that doesn't mean they won't be working in the DC space somewhere. Maybe they're doing Harry Potter. Maybe they're doing something else entirely. But we're due to see what Rocksteady's working on next. So surely Warner Brothers will bring them and show whatever that game is, and presumably on one of Microsoft or PlayStation stages, because they are that big, they've got that much cachet these days, that I think they can demand a place. Next up, there's some LEGO games. There's the LEGO DC Villains game that was announced really recently, and there's LEGO Incredibles, which comes out only a few weeks after E3, and both of those need to get some time, probably on the show floor. Mortal Kombat 11, we can't rule it out. It's been 2 years since we saw Mortal Kombat X. We've had Injustice 2 in the middle there, and they seem to be working on this rotating schedule these days, so who's to say that we won't see more of Ed Boon and Mortal Kombat this E3? Then there's some Harry Potter games. There's Harry Potter Wizards Unite. That is a mobile game, so don't expect to see it on one of the big stages or in one of the big conferences. It's a mobile game developed by Niantic, the ones responsible for Pokemon Go, and it's going to be very Pokemon Go-esque with kind of a Harry Potter skin and a Harry Potter flavour. People loved Pokemon Go, people continue to love Pokemon Go, and the Harry Potter fan base are as ravenous as the Pokemon fans. So expect to see something about that in some way, shape or form, presumably at E3. There's also a console game that's apparently in development, part of this Portkey Studios portfolio of Harry Potter games that includes Wizards Unite, includes the game that's already now available on mobile, and this console game. I don't expect to see that at E3 2018 though. It's just a little bit too soon to get this thing going and get this thing out the door. And finally, unfortunately, we're not going to see a Mad Max 2. Avalanche might still be working on Just Cause 4, but they're certainly working on Rage 2 for Bethesda, and they just don't have the resources to be able to commit to a sequel to Mad Max. An excellent game, but one that just didn't sell the way it needed to.
Panic has gripped the streets of Metropolis, but who will save the city now?
Citizens, remain calm. Everything is under control. The control of supervillains.
Hiya. What? You ready, Mr. J?
Everything is not okay.
It's good to be bad. Maybe you'd like to join us.
Who, me?
No, not you, dummy. I'm talking to the other guy.
Activision's next, and they have a partnership with PlayStation when it comes to Call of Duty, so you can expect to see the new Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and its Battle Royale features at E3 2018, presumably on the PlayStation stage. They've then got two other IP that I want to see more of. There's the Spyro Reignited trilogy, and I can't wait for that. I adored those Spyro games on the PS1, and I can't wait to play them on my PS4 or Xbox or Switch. It's not been announced for Switch yet. But I can't wait to play it again. I'm so excited. They need to show more of that game. It is coming this September. So it's fair to assume that we're going to see a bit more of that. The one that really interests me though, to see what they might do with, is Crash. We saw the Insane Trilogy last year. People loved it. Sales were incredible. It's now coming to the Xbox One and the Switch. Could we be due to see more from Crash? With the success of that game and the fact that the same team are not working on the Spyro Reignited trilogy, I just can't shake this feeling that maybe Crash is coming. Maybe we're going to see a new Crash. Maybe they're looking to build on what the original games did, channel that, and continue to go down that path. Naughty Dog set up an awesome thing with the original games, and who knows, maybe Activision can pick it up and run with it. Finally, we're going to power through a few of the smaller AAA publishers or developers and discuss what they might have in store. The first is CD Projekt Red, and we're going to talk about Cyberpunk 2077, a game that I firmly believe will be on the Microsoft stage at E3 2018. Microsoft is looking to leverage a big third-party exclusive, and what bigger game is there than Cyberpunk 2077 in terms of cachet? People love what CD Projekt Red did because of The Witcher 3, because of the DLC initiatives they implemented there, and the fact that the game was the best game of this console generation so far. The game's been in demand for quite some time, and it's time for us to see it. I think we're going to see it, and it's just a matter of where it lands. Next up, there's Bandai Namco, and there's a few things we need to discuss here, including Code Vein, Ace Combat 7, Soul Calibur 6, and maybe a new entry in the Tales franchise. None of them are big, multi-million selling games, but they all have their niche audiences. People love them, and there's good reason for that, and I expect that we'll see something from all four of these at E3 2018. Next up is THQ Nordic, and I'm really interested to see what they're going to do, because there was some comments made at one point that they're not going to go because of the Soccer World Cup. It seems a little bit weird, but maybe they'll just drop a few trailers in as a part of the PlayStation conference or the Xbox conference, or maybe something Nintendo's doing, and that can include Darksiders 3, Biomutant, and Metro Exodus. These are all big games, and they need some time and they need to be discussed, and surely THQ, even if they are going to the soccer and not formally attending E3, surely they're going to give that to one of those first parties to do something with. And finally, we're going to kick it off with Konami. In case you didn't gather, Konami's not going to be doing anything at E3 2018, and I don't think any of us want them to, so get out of here, Konami. Outside of that, that is this episode of The Insider concluded. We've spoken about so many third parties today. Please let me know if you think there's any that I forgot, any games that I forgot. Let me know in the comments below here. I'm really interested to see what you think. Please consider liking, sharing and subscribing to the channel. Again, those buttons are down below as well. And hit that notification bell so you're alerted to every new episode of Patched, The Insider, Player 2 Plays, the Video Games Club, the Late Game Review, and much more as they go live. There's some awesome stuff there, and we'd love for you to check it out. For written content, make sure to visit the website player2.net.au, where you'll find reviews, previews, opinion pieces, news, features, the Player 2 Writers Draft, and heaps more. There's some awesome content there, so please make sure to go and check it out, including our E3 hub. We're on Patreon, patreon.com/player2au. Consider kicking in a few dollars. At the lower tiers, you'll get early access to episodes such as Patched, such as The Insider, such as Player 2 Plays, and at higher tiers, you'll get exclusive episodes of some of those shows, as well as, at the top tier, access to the Player 2 podcast. You can join us, and we'd love to have you. Consider kicking in a few dollars. You'll help the Player 2 dream grow. We'd love for your support. Thank you in advance. For rolling updates, you can find me at PaulJamesP2 on Twitter. The website you can find at Player2AU on Twitter. And until next time, which presumably will be sometime after some of these press conferences go live, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.